Most people do not lose their financial future in one dramatic mistake. They lose it quietly. They lose it in normal days. Normal payments, normal upgrades, normal little rewards, normal debt, normal subscriptions, normal excuses, normal phrases like, "I'll start saving when things calm down. I'll invest when I make more money. I'll fix my finances next month. I deserve this." It's not that much. Everybody lives like this. And that last one may be the most dangerous, because when a financial mistake becomes normal, it stops feeling like a mistake. It becomes lifestyle. And lifestyle is harder to question than a bad decision. A bad decision can embarrass you. A lifestyle defends itself. It says, "This is just who I am. This is how life works. This is what adults do. This is what it costs to live." But sometimes what you call life is really leakage. Money enters. Money leaves. You work. You get paid. You pay bills. You buy small relief. You cover old decisions. You survive the month. Then the next month comes, and the pattern repeats. Nothing explodes. Nothing looks dramatic, but something is quietly dying. Your ability to choose. That is the part people underestimate. Money is not only about buying things. Money is about options. The option to wait. The option to say no. The option to leave a bad situation. The option to take an opportunity. The option to handle an emergency without panic. The option to stop living as if every problem has the right to become debt. And when all your money disappears every month, you are not just losing money. You are losing options. That is why this subject is deeper than budgeting. Budgeting sounds small. This is not small. This is about whether your life is being directed by you or by everything that gets to your money before your future does. Because that is the real question. When money enters your life, who gets paid first? Your future? Your debt? Your exhaustion? Your image? Your anxiety? Your past? Your desire to feel like you are not falling behind? Most people never answer that question directly, but their bank account answers it for them, every month, with brutal honesty. Your bank account is not just a place where money moves. It is a record of your real priorities. Not the priorities you say you have, the priorities you fund. You can say you want freedom, but if your money keeps going toward appearances, your real priority may be approval. You can say you want peace, but if you never build a cushion, your real priority may be immediate comfort. You can say you want to invest, but if every extra dollar turns into consumption, your real priority may be emotional relief. And this is not said to shame you. Shame is not useful by itself. Shame freezes people. The point is not to say, "I'm bad with money." That sentence is too vague, too heavy, too final. A better sentence is, "My financial system is leaking." That can be fixed. A leak can be found. A leak can be measured. A leak can be closed. A person is not doomed because their current system is weak, but they are in danger if they keep calling the leak normal. So let's start there. Not with becoming rich, not with investing, not with secret strategies, not with the fantasy of one perfect move that changes everything. Let's start with the moment your money arrives. That moment is more important than people realize, because for a short time, your money is still undecided. It has not become rent yet. It has not become debt yet. It has not become food yet. It has not become another monthly payment. It has not become a purchase you barely remember. It has not become emotional relief. It has not become a subscription. It has not become proof that you are doing fine. It is still possibility. And possibility does not last long. If you do not assign that money quickly, life will assign it for you. The month will take it. Old decisions will take it. Your tired self will take it. Your anxious self will take it. Your social self will take it. Advertising will take it. Convenience will take it. Comparison will take it. And then you will look at what remains and call it, "What I can save." But what remains is rarely the strongest part of your money. It is usually the part nobody protected. And unprotected money disappears. That is why "I'll save what's left" almost never builds anything serious. Because it puts your future at the end of the line, after everything else is eaten. And your future cannot survive on leftovers. Freedom cannot survive on leftovers. A real financial base cannot survive on leftovers. A person who only saves what is left is allowing the entire month to vote before the future gets a voice. And the month is loud. Bills are loud. Desire is loud. Debt is loud. Fear is loud. Fatigue is loud. The future is quiet. It does not send a notification. It does not pressure you. It does not show you a limited time offer. It does not say, "You deserve this." It waits. And because it waits quietly, it loses. Unless you speak for it first. That is the first shift. Your future must be paid before the noise begins. Not because the first amount will make you rich. It may be small, very small, but the amount is not the only thing being built. You are building an internal order. You are teaching your mind. I do not consume everything that enters my life. That sentence matters, because a person who consumes everything that enters is always starting over. Every month is a reset. Every paycheck begins from zero. Every emergency becomes a threat. Every opportunity feels far away. Every dream remains theoretical. Nothing accumulates. And without accumulation, there is no power. There may be movement, but not power. This distinction is important. Many people have a lot of financial movement. Money comes in. Money goes out. Payments happen. Transfers happen. Debt moves. Cards get paid. Cards get used again. Subscriptions renew. Small purchases happen. Bills clear. The month ends. It looks active. But activity is not progress. Progress leaves something behind. More margin, less bad debt, more savings, more investment, more calm, more ability to wait, more ability to choose. If nothing stronger remains at the end of the cycle, there was movement, not progress, and many people are exhausted by movement. They are not lazy. They are not doing nothing. They are doing a lot, but the result does not accumulate. That is why they feel trapped. They work, but they do not build. They earn, but they do not keep. They pay, but they do not become freer. They upgrade, but they do not become safer. They move, but they do not advance. That is one of the most painful forms of financial frustration. To spend years working and realize that almost none of that effort became power. It became bills. It became comfort. It became interest. It became image. It became temporary relief. It became a lifestyle that now needs to be fed. But it did not become freedom. And this is where many people misunderstand the problem. They think the solution is simply to earn more. Sometimes that is true. Income matters. Low income is a real problem. Inflation is real. Housing costs are real. Family obligations are real. Medical costs are real. There are people whose margin is brutally small, and telling them just budget better can be insulting. That reality exists. But another reality also exists. Some people do have margin, not huge margin, not perfect margin, but margin. And they still build nothing. Because every increase in income becomes an increase in lifestyle. More money comes in, more obligations appear. A better phone, a better car, more eating out, more trips, more subscriptions, more convenience, more debt capacity, more pressure to maintain the new normal. And then the person says, I make more money now, but I still feel stuck. Of course, the cage became more expensive. That does not mean it disappeared. More income does not automatically create freedom. More income amplifies your current pattern. If your pattern is structure, income becomes acceleration. If your pattern is impulse, income becomes larger leakage. If your pattern is patience, income becomes capital. If your pattern is anxiety, income becomes consumption. If your pattern is ego, income becomes appearance. So before asking, how do I make more money? You need to ask, what happens to the money I already make? Because if the current system leaks, a larger income may only increase the size of the leak. This is not an argument against earning more. Earn more if you can. Build skills. Negotiate. Change industries. Create a side income. Sell services. Build a business. Grow your value. But do not think more income will save a system that has no control. Income is fuel. But if the engine is broken, more fuel does not mean a better journey. It can mean a bigger fire. That is why the first financial skill is not investing. It is retention. Can money stay with you? Can part of it survive the month? Can part of it escape consumption? Can part of it avoid debt? Can part of it become protection? Can part of it become capital? If the answer is no, then the real problem is not that you do not know the perfect investment. The problem is that there is nothing stable enough to invest. Capital is not the same as money. Money is what enters. Capital is what remains with the mission. Money can become dinner. Money can become rent. Money can become a purchase. Money can become debt payment. Money can become distraction. Capital is different. Capital is money that has been captured, protected, and assigned to create future power. That future power may be an emergency fund. It may be debt freedom. It may be an investment. It may be a business. It may be education. It may be time. It may be the ability to leave something that is draining your life. That is why the goal is not just to make money. The goal is to convert part of your money into capital before the month devours it. That conversion changes everything. And it begins with separation. Not motivation, separation. Because motivation is fragile. It shows up after a video, after a conversation, after a scare, after a moment of clarity. But then life comes back. Work, stress, family, desire, fatigue, temptation, old habits, and motivation fades. A system remains. A system says, this part is already assigned. This part is not available. This part protects me. This part pays down the past. This part builds the future. This part is for enjoyment, but it has a limit. That is how money becomes less emotional. Not emotionless, less emotional. You are still human. You still need pleasure. You still need rest. You still need to enjoy life. But enjoyment must have a place. If it has no place, it invades everything. And if it invades everything, it stops being enjoyment. It becomes sabotage with a smile. That is a hard truth. Some spending gives life. Some spending only sedates discomfort. Some spending creates memory. Some spending creates debt. Some spending nourishes. Some spending distracts. Some spending is chosen. Some spending drags you. The object may look the same. The function is different. A dinner can be connection, or it can be avoidance. A purchase can be useful, or it can be emotional anesthesia. A trip can be meaningful, or it can be an escape financed by future stress. A phone can be a tool, or it can be a status symbol you could not afford. The question is not always, what did I buy? The deeper question is, what was I trying to feel when I bought it? That question can reveal more than any spreadsheet. Because many financial leaks are emotional leaks. You are not just buying objects. You may be buying relief, belonging, control, identity, a break from exhaustion, proof that your work means something, proof that you are not behind, a short silence from anxiety. And that silence can be expensive because the emotion passes, but the payment stays. The excitement fades, but the debt stays. The object becomes normal, but the commitment stays. The moment disappears, but the financial consequence remains. This is how people end up working today to pay for emotions from the past. That sentence should stop you for a second. Working today to pay for emotions from the past. That is what a lot of consumer debt really is. A past version of you felt something, wanted something, avoided something, needed to prove something, did not want to wait, did not have a cushion. And now your current self is paying for that moment. There is no need to hate that past self. Maybe that version of you was tired. Maybe it was scared. Maybe it did not know better. Maybe it was doing what felt normal. But at some point, you have to stop letting past versions of you run the entire future. That is what debt can become. Not all debt, but bad debt. Debt that weakens you. Debt that does not increase your capacity. Debt that does not protect anything important. Debt that does not build an asset. Debt that does not fit inside a clear strategy. Debt that only lets you avoid waiting. And debt that exists only because you could not wait may be one of the most expensive forms of impatience. Impatience with a contract. And impatience with a contract charges interest. That is the danger. Debt often enters as permission. Permission to have it now. Permission to feel better now. Permission to look successful now. Permission to solve now. Permission to skip the frustration of waiting. But later, it becomes command. It commands your paycheck. It commands your decisions. It commands your calendar. It commands your peace. And when too much of your income is commanded by the past, the future has nothing to build with. This is why being able to make the payment is not enough. That is a weak question. A lot of people can make payments that keep them trapped. A lot of people can stay current and still be financially fragile. A lot of people can look responsible because they pay on time, while quietly losing the ability to build. Being current is not the same as being free. Sometimes it only means the cage is well organized. And yes, that sounds harsh, but it is useful. Because many people measure financial health with the wrong question. They ask, can I afford the monthly payment? A better question is, does this payment make me stronger or weaker? Does it increase my capacity? Does it protect something important? Does it create future value? Does it fit my structure? Or does it only reduce my future choices? That question changes everything. Because something can be affordable and still be destructive. A monthly payment can be manageable and still steal margin. A purchase can be possible and still be wrong for your stage. A lifestyle can be sustainable only if nothing bad happens. And a life that only works if nothing bad happens is fragile. This is where margin becomes essential. Margin is not leftover money. Margin is defense. Margin is what stands between you and panic. Between you and bad debt. Between you and desperate decisions. Between you and selling at the wrong time. Between you and accepting less than you should. Between you and being forced into the first available option. People talk about wealth as if it begins with luxury, but real wealth often begins with margin. Quiet margin, a little money that does not need to be spent, a little distance between income and expenses, a little protection from emergency, a little ability to wait, a little room to think. That room matters, because the person with room thinks differently. They do not have to solve every problem with panic. They do not have to borrow for every surprise. They do not have to take every bad offer. They do not have to sell something just because life squeezed them. They do not have to make every decision from fear. Margin changes the mind, and a calmer mind makes better financial decisions. That is why an emergency fund is not boring. It is not lazy money. It is not money doing nothing. It is money doing one of the most important jobs, keeping panic away from the decision-making table. That is a real job. Because panic is expensive. Panic accepts bad interest. Panic sells too early. Panic buys too late. Panic signs fast. Panic ignores details. Panic confuses relief with strategy. So if part of your money protects you from panic, that money is working. Not by growing fast, by preventing expensive damage. Many people underestimate prevention because prevention is invisible. If your emergency fund prevents you from going into debt, nobody applauds. If your margin lets you wait, nobody sees it. If your discipline keeps you from making a bad purchase, there is no receipt that says, future saved. But invisible wins are still wins. In fact, some of the most important financial victories are invisible. The debt you did not take, the purchase you did not make, the investment you did not enter out of fear, the lifestyle upgrade you delayed, the emergency that did not become a crisis. The bad offer you could refuse. No one may see those wins, but your future feels them. This is where financial maturity becomes less glamorous and more powerful. It is the ability to respect invisible progress, to value what did not go wrong because you prepared, to value money that stayed, to value calm, to value options, to value the slow building of capacity. Most people want the visible symbols: the car, the phone, the trip, the outfit, the lifestyle, the upgrade, the proof. But proof is often expensive, and sometimes the need to prove you are doing well is exactly what prevents you from actually doing well. That is a brutal contradiction. People spend to look free and become less free. They borrow to look successful and become more dependent. They upgrade to feel progress and reduce their ability to progress. They buy the image of wealth and delay the structure of wealth. That is why the appearance of success is one of the most dangerous financial traps. Because it gives a temporary emotional reward while quietly weakening the base. The outside improves, the inside becomes fragile. And when the base is fragile, life does not need a huge disaster. A small shock can reveal the truth. A car repair, a medical bill, a job change, a late payment, a slow month, a family emergency, a market drop. Suddenly the image cannot protect you. The image cannot pay. The image cannot wait. The image cannot negotiate. The image cannot keep you calm. Only structure can. That is why financial structure matters more than financial appearance. And structure begins with brutal clarity. How much comes in? How much goes out? How much is already promised? How much is leaking? How much debt is charging the future? How much margin exists? How much money is truly available? How much money only looks available because you have not assigned it yet? These questions may feel uncomfortable. Good. Comfort has kept many people financially asleep. Clarity may hurt, but it gives you power. Confusion gives power to impulse. If you do not know how much you spend, every purchase can pretend to be small. If you do not know how much you owe, every new payment can pretend to be harmless. If you do not know how much you need for protection, every extra dollar can pretend to be available. If you do not know what your goals cost, every desire can pretend to deserve priority. Numbers are not everything, but without numbers, your emotions negotiate in the dark. And emotions are very persuasive in the dark. They say, it's fine. It's not that much. You'll fix it later. You deserve this. You can handle it. Next month will be different. Maybe. But if next month has the same system, it will probably have the same result. That is the part people hate. A new month does not create a new life by itself. A new paycheck does not create a new pattern by itself. A new year does not create a new person by itself. The calendar changes automatically. The system does not. You have to change it. And changing it does not require a perfect plan. It requires an honest first version, a simple version, one you can obey, because the best financial system is not the most impressive. It is the one you can actually follow when life is not perfect. That matters because many people design fantasy plans. They decide to cut everything, save aggressively, never spend impulsively, pay debt fast, invest perfectly, track every cent, wake up as a different person. And then reality arrives. They fail once, feel ashamed, abandon everything. That is not a system. That is emotional overcorrection. A real system must survive imperfection. It must allow correction. It must be strong enough to continue after a bad week. Because you will have bad weeks. You will make imperfect decisions. You will underestimate something. You will spend emotionally at least sometimes. You will get tired. The goal is not to become a machine. The goal is to return to the system. That is the difference between someone who changes and someone who only gets inspired. The inspired person needs a perfect mood. The disciplined person returns after mistakes, returns after a bad month, returns after a weak moment, returns after embarrassment, returns after a market scare, returns after a setback. No drama, correction. That is how financial identity is rebuilt. Not by saying, I am good with money, but by collecting evidence. I separated money. I reviewed my spending. I did not take that debt. I paid extra. I waited before buying. I invested with a plan. I came back after a mistake. Identity follows evidence. Give yourself evidence, not speeches. This is why the first stage of wealth is not external. It is internal order made visible through behavior, not thoughts. Behavior, because anyone can think long-term for 10 minutes. The question is whether you can fund the long-term when the short-term is screaming. Can you separate money before you touch it? Can you refuse debt when the purchase feels deserved? Can you build a cushion when nothing bad is happening? Can you keep investing when it feels boring? Can you stop lifestyle inflation from eating every raise? Can you enjoy life without using enjoyment as an excuse to destroy your margin? That is where the real work begins. And if this feels uncomfortable, good. It means we are no longer talking about money as theory. We are talking about money as a mirror of how you handle pressure, how you handle desire, how you handle comparison, how you handle fear, how you handle fatigue, how you handle future consequences. Money is not cold. It becomes emotional because people are emotional. And until you understand that, you may keep trying to solve emotional spending with mathematical advice. That will not be enough. You need numbers. Yes, but you also need pattern recognition. What happens before you overspend? Are you tired? Lonely? Angry? Bored? Trying to reward yourself? Trying to feel successful? Trying to belong? Trying to escape? Trying to prove something? That pattern matters, because if you do not know the emotional trigger, your budget will be attacked from the same place again and again. A spreadsheet cannot protect you from a wound you refuse to name. That does not mean you need to become dramatic. It means you need to become observant. When did the spending happen? What were you feeling? What story did you tell yourself? What did the purchase promise? Did it deliver? How long did the relief last? What did it cost later? This is not overthinking. This is how you stop being manipulated by your own automatic patterns. And once you see the pattern, you gain space. And space is power. A person without space reacts. A person with space can choose. That is the entire game. Create enough space between stimulus and spending, between desire and debt, between fear and investment decision, between income and consumption, between raise and lifestyle upgrade, between emotion and financial consequence. Space. That may be the most underrated financial asset. Not just cash. Mental space, decision space, time space, a pause. And the simplest way to create that space is to design rules before the emotional moment arrives. Rules like, I do not make non-essential purchases the same day I want them. I do not use consumer debt while rebuilding my financial base. I do not touch emergency money for lifestyle. I do not increase fixed expenses just because my income increased. I do not invest money I may need soon. I do not make major financial decisions while angry, euphoric, afraid, or exhausted. I do not call something cheap until I have multiplied it by time. I do not buy to impress people who will not pay the consequences. These rules are not meant to make life miserable. They are meant to protect your better judgment from your weaker moments, because your weaker moments are real. And pretending they are not real is not discipline. It is denial. Discipline is not pretending you never feel tempted. Discipline is building a system that makes temptation less powerful. That is the real shift. You do not need to win every battle with willpower. You need to design fewer battles. If shopping apps trigger impulse, remove saved cards. If social media makes you compare and spend, reduce exposure. If friends pressure you into spending, decide your limit before you go. If payday makes you feel rich, automate transfers before you feel rich. If credit cards make spending feel unreal, create friction. If you touch savings too easily, separate the account. If you forget subscriptions, audit them monthly. This is not weakness. This is self-knowledge. A mature person does not say, "I should be stronger." A mature person asks, "Where do I usually fail? And what barrier should I build there?" That question can save years, because many people do not fail from lack of intelligence. They fail from repeating the same exposed situation, same trigger, same emotion, same excuse, same result. Then they call it personality. No, it may just be an unprotected pattern. Protect the pattern. Change the result. And once you begin doing that, something interesting happens. You start recovering respect for yourself. Because financial chaos does not only damage your bank account, it damages self-trust. Every time you promise to change and do not, you believe yourself a little less. Every time you say, "This month will be different," and repeat the same pattern, your internal word weakens. Every time you avoid looking, you teach yourself that reality is too scary to face. But every small act of order rebuilds trust. I looked, I separated, I paid, I waited, I did not buy, I corrected. I came back. That matters, because a person who trusts themselves can make longer plans. A person who does not trust themselves needs constant emotional proof. They need quick results, quick comfort, quick validation, quick escape. Self-trust allows patience, and patience is one of the most profitable financial abilities, not because patience alone creates wealth, but because impatience destroys it. Impatience creates debt. Impatience buys high. Impatience sells low. Impatience chases trends. Impatience breaks plans. Impatience upgrades lifestyle too fast. Impatience turns discomfort into payments. Impatience signs contracts the future has to carry. So when you learn to wait, you are not doing nothing. You are refusing to let urgency set the price of your life. That is powerful. And this is where the first part closes. Before investment. Before growth. Before the exciting part. Because if you skip this foundation, the exciting part can become dangerous. Investing without retention is fragile. Investing without margin is stressful. Investing with bad debt can be contradictory. Investing from ego can become gambling. Investing from desperation can make you easy prey. So the first real financial victory is not to find the perfect asset. It is to become the kind of person whose money can survive long enough to become capital. That is the foundation. Capture the money. Assign it. Protect it. Stop the worst leaks. Stop letting old decisions own the future. Build margin. Rebuild self-trust. Then, and only then, investment becomes something different. Not a rescue mission. Not a lottery. Not proof that you are smart, but a tool. And tools are powerful only when the hand holding them is steady. That is where we go next. Because once money stops leaking, the question changes. It is no longer, "Where did it all go?" It becomes, "What can this money become if I give it direction, patience, and time?" Once money stops leaking, a different kind of responsibility appears. Not the responsibility of survival, the responsibility of direction. Because keeping money is only the beginning. A person can save and still be lost. A person can avoid debt and still have no plan. A person can earn more and still drift. A person can invest and still be gambling with better vocabulary. That is why the next question is not only, "How do I keep more?" The next question is, "What is this money supposed to become?" Because money without a mission is vulnerable. It may stay for a while, but sooner or later another desire will give it a mission. A bad day, a trend, a sale, a fear, a friend's lifestyle, a social media post, a sudden urge to feel ahead. Money without a mission does not remain neutral. It waits to be claimed, so you have to claim it first. Not with vague labels, with clear functions. Protection, debt freedom, opportunity, investment, education, business capital, time, flexibility, peace. Each function changes how you treat the money. Money sitting there is easy to spend. Emergency protection is harder to touch. Extra cash is easy to waste. Capital for freedom carries weight. Leftover money disappears. Investment contribution has direction. The name is not magic, but it creates meaning. And meaning creates friction. That matters because money often disappears when there is no friction. Spending has become too easy, too smooth, too fast. One click, stored card, monthly plan, instant approval, same-day delivery, automatic renewal, limited time offer. The modern economy is built to reduce the distance between desire and payment. So if you want to build wealth, you have to rebuild distance on purpose. Distance between wanting and buying. Distance between earning and spending. Distance between fear and decision. Distance between comparison and lifestyle upgrade. Distance between excitement and investment. That distance is not weakness. It is protection. A person who has no distance is easy to move. By advertising, by pressure, by envy, by boredom, by fear, by a market headline, by someone else's screenshot, by a feeling that will disappear tomorrow. And once you understand this, you stop treating discipline as punishment. Discipline is not the enemy of freedom. Discipline is the structure that prevents freedom from being sold in small pieces. Small pieces. That is how freedom is usually lost. Not all at once. A payment here. A little debt there. A subscription you forgot. An upgrade that becomes standard. A habit that becomes identity. A purchase that becomes a pattern. A pattern that becomes lifestyle. A lifestyle that becomes obligation. Then one day the person says, I don't know why I feel trapped. But the trap was not built in a day. It was assembled, piece by piece, decision by decision, justification by justification. And that means it can be dismantled the same way, piece by piece, not with panic, with structure. First, stop the new damage. Second, identify the old damage. Third, assign money to repair. Fourth, protect the repaired space. This is where debt must be understood clearly. Debt is not automatically evil. That would be childish. Some debt can build capacity. Some debt can acquire an asset. Some debt can create productive opportunity. Some debt can be used strategically by someone who understands the cost, the risk, and the purpose. But bad debt is different. Bad debt weakens your future without strengthening your capacity. It does not build. It consumes. It does not protect. It exposes. It does not create options. It reduces them. And the worst part is that bad debt often feels harmless at the beginning, because it speaks in monthly payments, not total cost. It says, you can handle this. Not, this will reduce your future choices. It says, it's only this much per month. Not, this money will no longer be available for your emergency fund, investment, business, family, or freedom. It makes the future small enough to ignore. That is why the monthly payment is psychologically powerful. It can turn an expensive decision into a tolerable feeling. And many people do not ask whether the decision is wise. They only ask whether the feeling is tolerable. That is dangerous, because tolerable payments can still create an intolerable life. One payment is fine, another is fine, another is fine. Then suddenly your income arrives already divided. A part belongs to the car, a part belongs to the card, a part belongs to the phone, a part belongs to a trip that ended months ago, a part belongs to an emergency you did not prepare for, a part belongs to a version of you that wanted relief. And by the time your current self wants to build, there is not much left. That is how the past occupies the future. Bad debt is the past charging rent inside tomorrow. And when too much of tomorrow is already occupied, the present becomes narrow. You cannot think freely. You cannot choose calmly. You cannot wait. You cannot negotiate well. You cannot take risk intelligently. Because every decision is made inside pressure. And pressure changes the mind. Pressure makes short-term relief look like strategy. Pressure makes expensive debt look like rescue. Pressure makes bad jobs look unavoidable. Pressure makes risky investments look necessary. Pressure makes panic feel reasonable. That is why reducing bad debt is not only about saving interest. It is about recovering mental space. Every bad debt you reduce removes one voice from the room, one due date, one pressure point, one reminder of a past decision, one claim on your future income. And as those voices disappear, something changes. You start hearing your own strategy again. That is powerful. But paying debt requires honesty. Not a general feeling. Not I owe some money. Not it's under control. Exact numbers. Total amount. Interest rate. Minimum payment. Real payment. Duedat. Priority. Cost. People avoid this because seeing the total can hurt. But not seeing it does not make it smaller. It only lets the fear grow in the dark. A debt you refuse to look at still owns space in your life. A debt you measure becomes an opponent, and an opponent can be attacked. You can choose a method. Highest interest first, smallest balance first for momentum. Negotiation, refinancing, only if it truly reduces cost and does not become permission to borrow again. Selling something that keeps you fragile. Temporarily reducing lifestyle. Increasing income. Combining strategies. The method matters, but the deeper point is this. Debt must stop being a fog and become a plan. Fog drains you. A plan gives you a next move, and a next move is often enough to break paralysis. Not solve everything immediately. Break paralysis. Because many people stay stuck not because there is no solution, but because the problem feels too shapeless to touch. Shape it, write it, measure it, name it, attack it. And while doing that, stop creating new bad debt. This is non-negotiable. If you are trying to get out of a hole, stop digging. That sounds obvious, but it is one of the most violated rules in personal finance. People pay down a card and use it again. They finish one payment plan and enter another. They consolidate debt and then rebuild the balances. They create breathing room and immediately spend the oxygen. Why? Because the behavior never changed. Only the numbers changed for a moment. And if the behavior stays alive, the debt comes back with a new face. That is why debt freedom is not just a payment goal. It is a behavior change. You are not only eliminating balances, you are eliminating the pattern that created them. The pattern of buying relief, the pattern of needing proof, the pattern of not waiting, the pattern of using credit as emotional oxygen, the pattern of confusing access with affordability, the pattern of asking, can I make the payment? Instead of, should this payment exist? That second question is sharper. Should this payment exist? Does it deserve a place in my future income? Does it make my life stronger? Does it increase my capacity? Does it protect something important? Or is it only the cost of a feeling I did not know how to manage? If it is the cost of a feeling, be careful. Feelings pass. Contracts remain. Now once debt begins to fall, a strange thing happens. Money becomes available. A payment disappears. A balance closes. A minimum payment is no longer required. There is relief, and relief can become dangerous if it is not assigned. Because the mind may interpret freed cash as permission. I finally have space. I can relax now. I deserve something. I've been disciplined. And maybe you do deserve something. But if every freed dollar becomes consumption, debt reduction does not create freedom. It only creates a new spending category. That is why freed cash must be captured immediately. The moment a debt is eliminated, that payment should be redirected to another debt, to your emergency fund, to investment, to a specific goal, to something that increases your future power. Do not let recovered money wander. Wandering money gets adopted by impulse, and impulse is always looking for money without a mission. This is where the financial system begins to compound behaviorally before it compounds mathematically. One debt eliminated creates cash flow. That cash flow attacks another target. Another target disappears. More cash flow becomes available. That flow builds protection. Protection reduces panic. Less panic improves decisions. Better decisions increase retention. Retention creates capital. Capital creates opportunity. Opportunity increases freedom. This is the real chain. People want compound interest, but before compound interest, there is compound behavior. Habits that reinforce other habits. A smaller debt makes saving easier. A growing emergency fund makes investing calmer. A clearer budget makes spending less emotional. A less inflated lifestyle makes income increases more powerful. A stronger identity makes discipline less painful. Everything connects. That is why financial change is not one habit. It is an ecosystem, and if one part is broken, it affects the others. If there is no emergency fund, investing becomes fragile. If there is too much bad debt, saving feels impossible. If spending is emotional, raises disappear. If lifestyle grows too fast, investment never gets enough fuel. If there is no review, leaks return. If there is no purpose, money loses direction. So do not ask only, what is the one thing I should do? Ask, what system am I building? Because a single action can help, but a system changes trajectory. A system says, income comes in, money is assigned, protection grows, bad debt falls, investment receives fuel. Lifestyle increases only when margin increases first. Review happens regularly. Corrections are made without drama. That is a system. Not perfect, but alive. And an alive system can improve. A perfect plan that you abandon is useless. A simple system that you repeat becomes powerful. This is where people overcomplicate. They search for the perfect app, perfect spreadsheet, perfect rule, perfect percentage, perfect strategy, perfect investment. But perfection can become procrastination with better clothing. Start with something you can obey. A rough budget that you actually use is better than a perfect one you abandon. A small automatic transfer is better than a huge intention. A basic debt list is better than vague dread. A simple investment plan you understand is better than a complex one you cannot emotionally hold. The question is not, is this impressive? The question is, can I repeat this? Repeatability is underrated. The most powerful financial actions are often boring because they are repeatable, separate. pay, review, invest, wait, adjust, repeat, again, again, again. Nothing dramatic, nothing viral, nothing that makes you feel like a genius in one day. But over time, the boring actions become visible. Debt falls, margin grows, the emergency fund becomes real, investments accumulate, income has direction. Your nervous system calms down around money. You stop feeling like every month is a rescue mission. That is not small, that is life-changing, because financial stress is not only about numbers. It invades your mind, it follows you into sleep. It changes how you work, how you talk, how you tolerate disrespect, how you choose, how you imagine the future. A chaotic money life creates background noise. Always there. Even when you are smiling, even when you are busy, even when you pretend it is fine. A system reduces that noise. Not immediately, not perfectly, but gradually. And the reduction of financial noise may be one of the most underrated forms of peace. People think peace comes after wealth. Sometimes peace starts earlier, when you finally know where you stand. When you have a plan, when you are not avoiding your numbers, when you are no longer creating new bad debt, when the emergency fund begins, when the first debt disappears, when the first investment contribution is made with calm, when a purchase no longer controls you, when you realize, I am not fixed yet, but I am no longer drifting. That sentence matters. Not fixed yet, but no longer drifting. That is a powerful stage, because drifting is exhausting. Drifting means every month decides for you. Every feeling decides for you. Every offer decides for you. Every emergency defines you. Every old habit gets a vote. No more. A person who stops drifting may still move slowly, but they are moving intentionally. And intention changes the meaning of sacrifice. Without intention, saying no feels like deprivation. With intention, saying no feels like protection. You are not refusing a purchase because you hate life. You are protecting margin. You are not paying debt because you are punishing yourself. You are recovering future income. You are not building a fund because you are afraid. You are buying calm. You are not investing because it is trendy. You are building future options. Language matters, because if your internal story is punishment, you will eventually rebel. If your internal story is construction, you can endure. Do not say, I cannot buy this. Say, this money has a more important job. Do not say, I am restricting myself. Say, I'm no longer funding leaks. Do not say, I am paying for mistakes. Say, I am recovering authority. Do not say, saving is boring. Say, I am buying future room. This is not childish positivity. It is strategic framing. You need a narrative that helps you continue when the process feels slow, because it will feel slow. At first, progress often feels too small. A little money saved, a little debt paid, a small investment, a small correction, a small number. But small is not meaningless. Small is how identity begins. The first time you keep money from disappearing, you challenge the old pattern. The first time you wait before buying, you challenge impulse. The first time you pay extra toward debt, you challenge the past. The first time you invest calmly, you challenge short-term thinking. The first time you review without shame, you challenge avoidance. Small actions are votes, votes for the person you are becoming. And over time, the vote count changes your identity. You begin to see yourself differently, not as someone who is bad with money, as someone who is learning to direct money. Not as someone who always fails, as someone who returns to the system. Not as someone trapped forever, as someone building margin. This identity shift is not cosmetic. It affects behavior. People act according to who they believe they are. If you believe you are hopeless, every mistake becomes confirmation. If you believe you are rebuilding, every correction becomes evidence. Choose the identity that allows responsibility without self-hatred. That is the key. Responsibility without self-hatred. Because self-hatred is not discipline. It is noise. It can push you for a moment, but it rarely builds sustainable change. You need firmness, not cruelty. Honesty, not humiliation. Structure, not panic. Correction, not drama. That is how people change. Now, let's talk about investment again, but from this stronger base. Once you have some retention, some margin, some protection, and a plan for bad debt, investing becomes more rational. Not risk-free, never risk-free, but more rational. Because now investment is not carrying the entire emotional burden of saving your life. That matters. If you expect an investment to rescue you, you will abuse it. You will demand too much. You will watch it too closely. You will enter with too much pressure. You will confuse normal volatility with personal failure. You will panic. You will chase. You will overreact. Investment should not be your rescue boat if you keep drilling holes in the ship. First, repair the ship. Then use investment as a sail. That is a better image. Investment can help you move, but it cannot compensate forever for a system that keeps leaking. So what makes investment mature? Not complexity, not showing off knowledge, not predicting perfectly. Mature investment has alignment. Your money, your timeline, your risk, your goals, and your emotional capacity must fit together. If the money is needed soon, it should not carry long-term volatility. If the goal is long-term, you need patience. If your risk tolerance is low, do not pretend it is high just because others are making noise. If you do not understand the asset, start smaller or learn more. If you cannot sleep, the strategy may be wrong for you or the size may be wrong. If you need the money to pay rent, it is not investment capital. It is rent money. Do not rename money to justify risk. That is a common mistake. People call money investment money because they want growth. But function matters more than desire. If that money is needed for survival, its function is survival. If it is needed for emergencies, its function is protection. If it can stay for years, then maybe it can serve growth. Confusing functions creates stress, and stress destroys discipline. A good investment plan respects functions. Some money must be liquid, some must be safe. Some can grow slowly, some can take risk, some can be used for opportunity. Not all money should do the same job. The immature mind wants every dollar to be safe, available, high return, exciting, and flexible. That does not exist. Every choice has trade-offs. Liquidity has a price, safety has a price. Growth has a price, risk has a price, time has a price. The mature person does not look for impossible combinations. They assign roles. This part protects, this part grows, this part waits, this part attacks debt, this part funds learning, this part funds life. Now money has architecture, and architecture beats chaos. That is why a portfolio is not just a list of assets. It is an expression of your life structure. At least it should be. If your investments do not match your real life will eventually force a sale, a panic, or a mistake. So be honest. Do not build a portfolio for the person you wish you were. Build one for the person you are becoming. With your real income, real needs, real emotional tolerance, real time horizon, real responsibilities, real capacity to learn. Then improve from there. This also means you must stop copying other people blindly. Someone else's risk may not be your risk. Someone else's timeline may not be your timeline. Someone else's income may not be your income. Someone else's loss may be survivable for them and devastating for you. Someone else's confidence may be performance. Someone else's strategy may be luck wearing a suit. Do not copy screenshots. Do not copy excitement. Do not copy noise. Learn principles, then adapt them to your life. Because your life is the container, and every financial strategy must fit the container. Now, one of the hardest parts of investing is dealing with time. Time is powerful, but time is psychologically difficult because in the beginning, time feels like nothing is happening. You contribute. The number is small. You wait. The result is unimpressive. You contribute again, still small. Meanwhile, someone online claims they doubled something. Someone else shows a huge gain. Another person says the next big opportunity is happening now, and your slow plan begins to feel stupid. This is where many people break. Not because the plan is bad, because the plan is quiet, and the world is loud. You need to understand this. Quiet progress often looks weak before it becomes strong. A small emergency fund looks weak until an emergency happens. A boring investment plan looks weak until time passes. A debt payment plan looks weak until a debt disappears. A lifestyle kept below income looks weak until everyone else is drowning in obligations. A calm strategy looks weak until panic arrives. Do not underestimate quiet things. Quiet things build foundations, and foundations do not ask for applause. They hold weight. Your goal is not to feel brilliant every week. Your goal is to become harder to break every year. That is a better metric. Harder to break. Less fragile. More prepared. More flexible. More patient. More capable. More informed. More able to wait. More able to choose. If your financial life is becoming harder to break, you are moving in the right direction, even if it does not look impressive from the outside. This is important because society rewards visible consumption more than invisible strength. People see the car. They do not see the emergency fund. They see the trip. They do not see the paid-off debt. They see the house upgrade. They do not see the stress. They see the lifestyle. They do not see the lack of options, so if you build quietly, you may feel behind. You are not necessarily behind. You may simply be building what cannot be photographed yet. That requires identity. You must become the kind of person who can respect invisible progress. That is rare, and rare is valuable. Because if you need every good decision to be socially rewarded, you will make too many socially visible decisions. Some of the best financial decisions are boring, private, and invisible. But they give you power later. Remember that. Now income growth enters again. Because once your system can hold money, more income becomes powerful. Before that, more income may leak. After that, more income accelerates. This is why skills matter. A person who only cuts expenses may eventually hit a ceiling. You cannot cut below zero. At some point, growth requires more income, better skills, better opportunities, better negotiation, better business, better use of time. But income growth should be approached strategically. Ask, what skill increases my value? What problem can I solve for others? What market pays for that problem? What can I learn in the next 6 months? What can I sell ethically? What asset can I build? What relationship or network can open opportunities? What current ability is underused? What knowledge could become income? These questions move you from wishing to designing. But again, more income must be captured before lifestyle absorbs it. One rule can change your trajectory. Every time income increases, freedom must increase first, before lifestyle, before upgrades, before new fixed costs. Freedom first. That could mean more savings, more debt payment, more investment, more emergency fund, more business capital. Then lifestyle can improve. But if lifestyle improves first, freedom may never catch up. This is the trap. You work hard to earn more, then build a life that requires you to keep working harder just to maintain it. That is not freedom. That is a more expensive dependency. So when income rises, pause. Do not let the new money become normal too quickly. Capture it. Assign it. Use it to change the structure. Because the first months after an income increase are powerful. Your old lifestyle still fits. Your new income is higher. That difference is opportunity. If you protect it, your life changes. If you spend it immediately, the opportunity disappears. This is why many high earners still feel broke. They did not lack income. They lacked capture. They lacked proportion. They lacked structure. They allowed every income increase to become a new lifestyle baseline. And once a higher lifestyle becomes baseline, reducing it feels like loss. So prevent that. Do not let every improvement become a permanent obligation. Enjoy some of it, yes, but convert part of it into freedom before your mind gets used to it. This is how financial acceleration works without becoming extreme. Not by never enjoying, by ensuring enjoyment does not eat the entire upgrade. That is balance, not perfect balance, practical balance. Because a life that never enjoys may become resentful, and resentment breaks plans. But a life that enjoys without limits becomes fragile. So give enjoyment a place, not the whole house. A room, a budget, a role, a permission that does not destroy the foundation. When enjoyment has a place, it becomes clean. You can spend without guilt. Because protection is funded, debt is being handled, investment is happening. The future is not abandoned. That kind of spending feels different. It is not escape, it is chosen. And chosen enjoyment is healthier than impulsive spending. Because it does not need lies, it does not need avoidance. It does not need I'll fix it later. It fits. That word matters. Fit. A financial life improves when things fit. Your housing fits your income. Your car fits your margin. Your investments fit your horizon. Your spending fits your values. Your goals fit your plan. Your lifestyle fits your freedom. When things do not fit, pressure appears, and pressure reveals the truth. So before upgrading anything, ask, does this fit my freedom? Not just my income, my freedom. Because income can be high and freedom low. If fixed costs are too high, freedom is low. If bad debt is high, freedom is low. If emergency savings are zero, freedom is low. If investments cannot be left alone, freedom is low. If you cannot say no, freedom is low. So measure freedom correctly, not by how expensive your life looks, by how many options it gives you. That is the deeper metric, options. Options are what wealth really buys. Not just objects, options. The option to wait, to leave, to help, to invest, to rest, to build, to refuse, to recover, to take a risk wisely, to not panic, to not be owned by every emergency. That is why capital matters. Capital is stored optionality. Money with direction becomes options. And options change how you experience life. You walk differently when you are not completely trapped. You negotiate differently. You think differently. You sleep differently. You take criticism differently. You tolerate less abuse. You stop seeing every problem as a catastrophe. You become harder to control through urgency. That is a major form of power. Not loud power, quiet power. And quiet power is often the beginning of real freedom. This is why the goal is not to become obsessed with money. Obsession is another prison. The goal is to build enough structure that money stops being constant background fear. You do not want money to be the center of your soul. You want it to become an organized tool. A tool for stability, opportunity, protection, creation, choice. That is a healthy relationship. Not worship, not avoidance, not shame, not addiction. Tool. And tools require skill. You do not become skilled by wishing. You become skilled by practice. Practice reviewing. Practice waiting. Practice assigning. Practice saying no. Practice learning. Practice investing small before investing bigger. Practice keeping commitments to yourself. Practice correcting without drama. Over time, the practice changes you. And once you change, the same income can produce a different life. That is the point. Some people need more money. Yes, but many also need to become a different manager of the money that already enters. Because if the manager does not change, the portfolio of problems may only get bigger. The old manager spends raises. The old manager avoids numbers. The old manager borrows for emotions. The old manager invests from excitement. The old manager upgrades too fast. The old manager compares. The new manager assigns, reviews, protects, learns, waits, invests, enjoys within proportion, returns after mistakes. That is the transformation, not from poor to rich overnight, from reactive to deliberate, from drifting to directing, from money passing through to money becoming capital. And once that shift happens, the final question emerges. How do you make this permanent? Because anyone can improve for a month. A month is not transformation. A month is evidence, useful evidence, but still early. The real goal is to build a system that continues when life becomes ordinary again, when the motivation is gone, when nobody is listening, when the video is over, when the month is messy, when progress feels slow, when you are tempted to say, "This is not working fast enough." That moment is where the future is decided, not during the emotional beginning, during the boring middle. The boring middle is where people quit. And the boring middle is where wealth is quietly built. That is where the final part begins. Because the difference between a financial idea and a financial identity is not understanding. It is continuity. And continuity is what turns money from income into freedom. The boring middle is where most financial lives are decided, not at the beginning. The beginning is emotional. The beginning has energy. The beginning feels clean. You finally see the pattern. You feel awake. You say, "This time I get it. This time I will change. This time I will do it differently." And maybe you mean it. But meaning it is not enough. Because after the beginning comes the middle. And the middle is quieter, less exciting, less dramatic. No one applauds. The numbers may still look small. The debt may still feel heavy. The emergency fund may still feel unimpressive. The investment may still feel slow. The lifestyle changes may feel uncomfortable. The old habits may still whisper. And this is where many people return to the old pattern. Not because they learned nothing, because they expected change to feel more exciting. But real financial change often feels boring before it feels powerful. It feels like doing the same right thing again, and again, and again. Separating money, paying down debt, reviewing spending, waiting before buying, investing with patience, keeping lifestyle below income, saying no to something that would feel good today but weaken tomorrow. None of that feels heroic in the moment, but those are the bricks. And a life is built with bricks, not fireworks. Fireworks impress people. Bricks hold weight. That is the difference. If you want a financial life that can hold weight, you have to respect the brickwork, the repeated work, the unglamorous work, the work that nobody sees. Because wealth does not only come from big moves, it often comes from small decisions that were not abandoned. A small transfer that happened every month, a debt payment that kept going, a raise that did not become lifestyle immediately, an emergency fund that was not touched for pleasure, an investment plan that survived boredom, a purchase that was delayed, a leak that was closed, a mistake that was corrected instead of used as an excuse to quit. This is what continuity looks like. And continuity is more important than intensity. Intensity says, "I will change everything this week." Continuity says, "I will still be here in 6 months." Intensity burns hot. Continuity builds identity. And identity is what makes the system last. Because when something becomes part of who you are, It no longer requires the same amount of force. At first, saving may feel like restriction. Later, not saving feels strange. At first, reviewing expenses may feel uncomfortable. Later, not knowing your numbers feels irresponsible. At first, saying no to consumer debt may feel like missing out. Later, taking bad debt feels like giving away control. At first, investing patiently may feel slow. Later, chasing every trend feels childish. That is when you know something has changed, not when you feel motivated. When your discomfort changes sides, the old you felt uncomfortable with discipline. The new you feels uncomfortable with chaos. That is a powerful shift, and it does not happen through one speech. It happens through repetition, through evidence, through returning to the system after imperfect days. Because imperfect days will come. You will overspend at some point. You will misjudge a cost. You will get tired. You may buy something emotionally. You may miss a target. You may feel tempted by a trend. You may feel behind. The goal is not to build a system that never faces failure. The goal is to build a system you can return to after failure. That is maturity. A bad week does not need to become a bad year. One impulsive purchase does not need to become a season of avoidance. One investment mistake does not need to become an identity. 1 month of lower savings does not mean the plan is dead. You correct. You learn. You return. No drama. No self-hatred. No, I ruined everything, so nothing matters. That sentence destroys people. I already failed, so why keep trying? Because one failure is a signal. Abandoning the system is the real danger. A mistake gives information. Use it. What triggered it? Was it fatigue? Was it comparison? Was it boredom? Was the rule too weak? Was the plan unrealistic? Was there no friction? Was the money too easy to access? Was the goal too vague? Was the budget ignoring real life? Each mistake can improve the system if you study it. But if you only shame yourself, you learn nothing. Shame without structure repeats. Correction changes. So when you fail, do not ask, "What is wrong with me?" Ask, "What does this reveal about my system?" That question keeps you in power. It turns failure into design. And design is the heart of financial freedom. Because a strong financial life is designed. It is not improvised. It has a foundation. It has rooms. It has walls. It has protected areas. It has maintenance. It has expansion. Think of it like a house. You would not throw materials on the ground and call it a home. You would not build a second floor without checking the foundation. You would not put expensive decoration on cracked walls and call that stability. But people do this with money all the time. They decorate a fragile financial life. They upgrade lifestyle before building margin. They invest before having protection. They borrow before understanding cost. They increase income and immediately increase obligations. They make the outside look better while the inside becomes more unstable. And then they are surprised when pressure reveals the cracks. The cracks were already there. Pressure only exposed them. That is why the order matters. Clarity first, then capture, then protection. Then bad debt reduction, then growth, then expansion, then review, again and again. Clarity means knowing where you stand. Not guessing, not feeling, knowing. How much enters, how much leaves, how much is fixed, how much is flexible, how much is debt, how much is leaking, how much margin exists. Capture means part of the income is separated before the month can absorb it. Protection means building money that prevents emergencies from becoming disasters. Bad debt reduction means the past stops eating tomorrow. Growth means investing, learning, building skills, creating assets, increasing earning capacity. Expansion means improving life without letting lifestyle consume all progress. Review means the system stays alive. That is the architecture. And architecture is what separates a financial wish from a financial path. A wish says, "I want to be free." A path says, "This is what happens to the next paycheck." A wish says, "I want to invest." A path says, "This amount, this purpose, this horizon, this risk, this review." A wish says, "I want less debt." A path says, "This balance, this rate, this payment, this order, this rule against new bad debt." A wish says, "I want more peace." A path says, "This emergency fund, this spending limit, this review rhythm, this protection from panic." Do you see the difference? Wishes feel good. Paths change things. And the path does not have to be perfect. It has to be walked. This is where many people lose. They collect wishes, new goals, new ideas, new videos, new methods, new inspiration. But they do not walk one path long enough to see what it can do. They keep restarting. And restarting feels productive because it has the energy of a new beginning. But sometimes restarting is just avoidance. Avoidance of the boring middle. Avoidance of consistency. Avoidance of seeing whether you can actually keep a promise to yourself. At some point, you have to stop restarting and start continuing. That is a different kind of power. Continuing after the emotion fades. Continuing when progress is not visible. Continuing when nobody cares. Continuing when the old lifestyle calls you back. Continuing when a friend spends more. Continuing when social media makes you feel behind. Continuing when the market is noisy. Continuing when the plan feels too simple to be impressive. That is where financial character is built, not in the fantasy. In the continuation, and financial character is not about being cold. It is about being loyal to the future when the present is persuasive. The present is always persuasive. It says, enjoy now. Fix it later. You work hard. You deserve this. Everyone does it. You can handle the payment. You will make more later. Life is short. Some of those sentences contain truth. That is what makes them dangerous. Yes, life is short. Yes, you work hard. Yes, you deserve good things. Yes, you should enjoy. But none of that means you should abandon your future every time the present wants comfort. Your future is not a stranger. It is you. Older, more tired, perhaps. With fewer years to repair some mistakes. With needs you do not feel yet. With emergencies you cannot predict. With opportunities that will require resources. With a life that will be shaped by what you funded today. So, when you separate money for the future, you are not depriving yourself. You are caring for a version of yourself that cannot speak loudly yet. When you avoid bad debt, you are not punishing yourself. You are removing weight from that future self. When you invest patiently, you are not just chasing returns. You are sending tools forward. When you build margin, you are not being fearful. You are giving your future self room to breathe. That framing matters, because if you see every act of discipline as deprivation, you will eventually rebel. But if you see discipline as loyalty, it becomes easier to repeat. Not easy, easier. Loyalty to your future, loyalty to your peace, loyalty to your options, loyalty to the life you say you want. That is stronger than guilt. Guilt is unstable. Loyalty can last. Now, let's talk about enjoyment again. Because this is where many financial messages become stupid. They act as if all pleasure is the enemy. It is not. Pleasure is part of a human life. Rest matters. Beauty matters. Food matters. Travel can matter. Celebration matters. Generosity matters. Experiences matter. A life built only around accumulation can become emotionally poor even if the account grows. That is not the goal. The goal is not to become a person who cannot enjoy anything without calculating. The goal is to enjoy without betrayal. That phrase matters. Enjoy without betrayal. Enjoy without betraying your emergency fund. Enjoy without betraying your debt plan. Enjoy without betraying your investment habit. Enjoy without betraying your future self. Enjoy without needing lies. Enjoy without hiding from the numbers afterward. That kind of enjoyment feels clean. It has a place. It fits. It does not require avoidance. It does not create panic. It does not become a new monthly burden. It does not feed a false identity. It is chosen. Chosen enjoyment is different from reactive spending. Reactive spending says, I feel something, so I need to buy. Chosen enjoyment says, this matters to me and it fits my life. That is maturity, not never spending. Spending with hierarchy, because money should serve life, but life includes tomorrow. That is the balance. The present deserves to live. The future deserves to arrive with dignity. Your financial system must seat both at the table. If the present gets everything, the future arrives weak. If the future gets everything, the present becomes resentful. A sustainable system gives both a voice. That is why an enjoyment category is not weakness. It can be protection against rebellion. But it must be proportionate. It must not invade everything. It must not justify debt. It must not pretend to be emergency. It must not consume every raise. It must not become identity. It is a room in the house, not the whole house. Now, if income is low, the strategy has to be honest. There is no dignity in pretending that all financial problems are solved by cutting coffee or canceling subscriptions. Some people need more income. They need better work, better pay, a new skill, a side business, a higher value service, a different market, a professional move, a second income stream, a serious plan to raise earning power. That is real. But income growth must enter the system, not replace it. Because more money without better direction can create more expensive chaos. So the question is, How do I increase income and protect the increase from lifestyle inflation? Lifestyle inflation is subtle. It does not arrive as foolishness. It arrives as reward. I finally can. I deserve better. I have been waiting. I am moving up. I should feel my progress. And yes, you should feel some progress. But not all progress should be converted into consumption. Some progress must become freedom. That is the rule. When income rises, freedom must rise first. Before new fixed costs, before permanent upgrades, before turning extra income into the new normal, capture part of the increase. Put it toward margin, debt, investment, protection, skills, business capital. Then improve lifestyle with what truly fits. This prevents a common tragedy, earning more and remaining trapped. That tragedy is everywhere. People earn more, but their obligations grow faster. They make progress, then consume the progress. They climb, but the cage climbs with them. More income, more payments, more pressure, more dependence, more things to maintain, and still not enough freedom. This is why freedom must be measured separately from income. Income tells you what enters. Freedom tells you what remains possible. Can you wait? Can you say no? Can you handle a surprise? Can you invest without panic? Can you reduce work if needed? Can you leave a bad situation? Can you choose? If the answer is no, high income may only be a high-speed treadmill. You are moving fast, but not necessarily moving free. So measure freedom. Not just earnings, not just lifestyle, not just assets. Freedom. How many months can you breathe if income stops? How much of your income is already promised before it arrives? How much bad debt is charging tomorrow? How much money is working for your future? How much of your lifestyle is chosen versus forced? How much room do you have to change? These questions are not glamorous, but they reveal the truth. And once you see the truth, you can improve it. Now, what does a complete financial life begin to look like? Not perfect, complete. It looks like income entering a system. Part of it supports life. Part protects peace. Part repairs the past. Part builds the future. Part funds joy. Part increases capacity. The person reviews, adjusts, learns, returns after mistakes, raises income when possible. Does not let every increase become a new obligation. Invests with purpose. Uses debt carefully, if at all. Keeps bad debt from becoming normal. Does not confuse status with strength. Does not confuse motion with progress. Does not confuse excitement with strategy. That person may not look rich at first. Maybe nothing obvious changes. Maybe the car is the same. The clothes are the same. The apartment is the same. The photos are not more impressive. But internally, the structure is changing. Less panic, less leakage, less avoidance, less bad debt, more margin, more clarity, more capital, more patience, more options. That is real progress. And eventually, real progress becomes visible. Not always through luxury, sometimes through calm, through the ability to decline, through the ability to invest during uncertainty, through the ability to leave something unhealthy, through the ability to help without collapsing, through the ability to take an opportunity because you are prepared, through the ability to sleep better. Do not underestimate calm. Calm is not laziness. Calm can be a financial achievement. If you have lived with money anxiety, you know this, the constant background noise, the mental math, the avoidance, the fear of checking, the stress before payments, the discomfort when something unexpected happens, the feeling that one bad month could break everything. Reducing that noise is not small. It changes how you experience life. And this is why money matters. Not because money is the meaning of life, but because disorganized money can steal attention from life. When money is chaos, it occupies the mind. When money is organized, it becomes a tool. A tool should serve, not rule. That is the goal, to make money serve. Serve protection, serve freedom, serve choices, serve peace, serve creation, serve generosity, serve future strength. Not ego, not panic, not image, not impulse, not avoidance, not old patterns. And yes, this requires discipline, but not the cheap kind of discipline that sounds like punishment. The real kind, the kind that says, I am responsible for the direction of what enters my life. That sentence is powerful, because money enters your life through work, business, skill, effort, opportunity. But direction does not happen automatically. Direction is assigned. If you do not assign direction, the world assigns consumption. The world is very good at that. There is always something to buy. Something to upgrade, something to prove, something to fear, something to join, something to not miss, something to compare against. The world has a plan for your money. Do you? That may be the sharpest question in this entire script. The world has a plan for your money. Do you? Banks have a plan. Retailers have a plan. Apps have a plan. Advertisers have a plan. Subscription services have a plan. Social platforms have a plan. Debt products have a plan. Your impulses have a pattern. Your anxiety has habits. Your ego has preferences. Your future needs a plan too. And you are the only one who can create it. Not later. Not when life is easier. Not when you make twice as much. Not when you feel ready. Not after every problem disappears. The plan begins with the next income. That is where theory becomes identity. When the next money arrives, do not ask first, "What can I buy?" Ask, "What part of this money will still be with me when the month is over?" That question can change your life, because if part of the money stays, it can protect you. If it protects you, you panic less. If you panic less, you decide better. If you decide better, you reduce bad debt. If you reduce bad debt, you recover cash flow. If you recover cash flow, you can invest. If you invest with patience, time begins to help. If time helps and you do not destroy the process, income starts becoming freedom. But if nothing stays, nothing grows. If nothing is assigned, everything is claimed. If everything is consumed, the future arrives empty. That is the simple truth. Hard but simple. You cannot multiply what you never manage to keep. You cannot build with money that has no mission. You cannot become free if your income belongs first to debt, impulse, panic, and image. You cannot expect future peace while constantly selling it for present relief. So make the next move concrete, not dramatic. Concrete. Write down what enters. Assign it before it arrives. Separate something for protection. Choose one leak to close. Choose one bad debt to attack. Choose one amount to invest or prepare to invest. Choose one rule that protects you from your weakest moment. Choose one review date. That is enough to begin. Not enough to finish. Enough to begin. And beginning matters, because no one changes a financial life in theory. It changes in repeated contact with real money, real purchases, real payments, real temptation, real income, real mistakes, real corrections, real months. That is where your future is built, not in the feeling of understanding, in the act of returning, again, 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 until the system becomes familiar, until the old chaos feels strange, until your future no longer receives leftovers, until money stops passing through your life and starts obeying your direction. That is when financial freedom stops being a motivational phrase. It becomes a consequence, not immediate, not guaranteed, not effortless, but possible, built from decisions that looked small when you made them. A transfer, a pause, a number, a payment, a review, a lesson, an investment, a month of staying with the system. Those are not small if they repeat. They are the beginning of a different life. And if this kind of truth makes sense to you, then you already know this is not just another money topic. It connects to everything: discipline, identity, work, desire, fear, comparison, freedom. The way you handle money reveals the way you handle your future. And if you can learn to direct this part of your life, you begin to see other parts differently too. Because the deeper lesson is not only financial. It is this: a life without direction will be assigned a direction by everything around it. Your money proves that first, but it is rarely the only place where it happens. So let this be the line you remember. Do not let your future stand at the end of the line. Pay it earlier. Protect it better. Build it deliberately. And when the next income arrives, treat that moment like what it is, not just payday, a vote. A vote for the same pattern, or a vote for a different life. Choose carefully, because your money will obey something. Fear, ego, debt, impulse, comparison, or strategy. And whichever one it obeys, most often will slowly become your future.